Senator Scott, what is next, do you think, though? So if the ceasefire holds, what are the administration's hope for next steps, and what are the priorities so we can get to a more peaceful and stable Middle East?
Well, I think we've got to continue to do what President Trump did his first term, is just continue to build relationships with all the countries to say, look, let's all get along. Let's all figure out how do we all build our economies. Let's make sure that we all respect the sovereignty of Israel. And let's build our economies, which helps all of our citizens. And so the Abraham Accords were a big deal, and that we need to expand them. But, look, I think all of us hope for peace. All of us hope, we want peace in Iran and everywhere. Who wants to go to war? I mean, I've got, I served in the military. I had zero interest in going to war. I know I wanted to defend the freedom of this country. So hopefully that's what's going to happen. It's up to Iran, though. They're the, if you look around the world, who are the destabilizing groups? Well, in Latin America, it's Cuba. In the Middle East, it's Iran. In Asia, it's China and North Korea. And then in the Europe area, it's Russia. I mean, they I don't know why they want to cause havoc and people dying. I mean, we all have children or grandchildren, and why do they want the people's lives at risk? I just don't get it, but they do.
Let's go into the decision being made on the big, beautiful bill. So Trump, and you just said you were with him yesterday. I'm sure you got the absolute latest as this process plays itself out. Wants this to be done by July 4th. Senator John Thune, I believe, has said that he's not going to allow anybody to leave and go on their July 4th break until this is passed. What's the time frame? Are you optimistic the Senate is going to deliver a bill before we get to the July 4th holiday?
I'm very optimistic that we'll get there. Now, we're not there yet. We have to do, and we should, and I believe in the Trump agenda. So we ought to be doing those things. The other thing President Trump wants is he wants a balanced budget. We just passed $37 trillion worth of debt. $37 trillion. So we've got to figure out how to get our spending under control. We've had a 53% increase in spending since COVID started, and the House bill cut less than 2% of it. So we still have a lot of work to do in the Senate. So that's what we're working on. We're working hard to find other ways to save money, because ultimately every American taxpayer is going to pay for this fiscal insanity. Let me give you something to think about. So if we were running around $2 trillion deficits, right? So if we said everybody's just going to pay their, all the taxpayers, you pay your share to cover that deficit just for this year, not the debt, $37 trillion. How much of a tax increase would the American public see? What's your guess?
Oh, I mean, in order to pay our share, I mean, if it's $37 trillion and we have roughly 300.
No, just the deficit.
Oh, just the deficit.
Just this. Just not the $37 trillion.
20%?
25% more?
Yeah.
80.
What?
80% more. 80%
wow.
more.
Yikes.
Okay.
That's
now
not good.
Let me give you another number. You know how they always say, oh, just tax the rich, just tax the rich. Okay. So what if we took the income of the rich and we said, at what level could we stop? We take 100% of their income. Could we stop at 10 people that make $10 billion a year, or $10 million a year, or $1 million a year? Where would we stop?
It'd have to be like 95%.
Take all their income. What's your guess?
Yeah, it'd have to be like 95%. It's a crazy stat because the top 1% pays something like 40% of taxes already. I mean, it's crazy.
It's 100,000.
Yeah.
It would take 100% of the income of individual filers that make 100,000,
wow.
or joint filers make 180,000. 100%. Our corporations, and they say charge our corporations more. Our corporations don't make $2 trillion a year.
This is where I'm reminded, Senator Scott, that, and this is true, this is a New York Post and New York Times figure that I've seen before. The average New York City public school janitor makes over $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's about 105, 110 grand. So for anyone who thinks that tax the rich is good to actually deal with that, as you're pointing out, it's just people who work, and you have to take all of their money, all of the money of people who work. All of their income. But then what do we do? I start to get a little frustrated here, Senator Scott, because everyone gets all, we've got to do something about the spending, but then we can't do anything about the spending now. And we really can't do anything about the spending that's automatic in the future either, because people get upset. So then we don't want to do anything about the spending. It feels like we just go in this circle all the time. You ran a big business. You're a very successful guy in the private sector. How do we actually fix it?
I'm probably the only guy in the Senate's done this. I became a governor in a budget deficit, and guess what? We reduced spending and we balanced the budget. We did it every year. You know how you do it? Exactly the way you did it. You would look and say, how much is my income? I'm not going to spend more than that. I will never vote for a tax increase. I cut taxes over 100 times, and guess what happened? I built the economy that allowed us to have record spending for the things we care about. So what we've got to do is say to ourselves, step one, we've got to get back to normal spending. We're past COVID. We've increased it 53% in 5 years.
But where is all that money going, Senator? Like, this is what I keep looking at this saying, hold on. Here's a stat that I think is jaw-dropping to give a sense of just how much waste there can be. New York City, Senator, because we're going to be talking about the mayor's race in a second, in the last 10 years has increased its budget, its spending, 35%. And my family lives there, and I was living there until a couple of years ago. My point is that all services have gotten worse. Every quality of life metric has gotten worse, but the budget's 30% more. So totally the federal government, where is all this money going that we were spending on COVID? Is it all just going to like Medicaid programs, which are just massive welfare?
It's everything. And so everybody says, oh, it's Medicare and Social Security. No, it's not. If you took Clinton's budget, his last budget was balanced, and you raised it based on population, raised it based on inflation, okay? And then we said that's what we're going to spend, we'd have a balanced budget. It's everything. Everything has increased, and there's no accountability. So this is all fixable. But guess what? When I was governor of Florida, there's 4,000 lines of the budget. I could read every line in the budget. If I ask for it here, we don't do budgets. We do spending bills. So I could look at spending bills. So I said, if I wanted to say, give me all, 6,000 lines of the federal budget, it's impossible. So how do you ever do it? And then the other thing is people say, well, I don't want to do it. So what they're telling you, when people say they don't want to balance a budget, the other thing they're saying to you is, I don't care that your taxes go up. They're saying they don't care that inflation is going to get worse. They don't care that interest rates are going to go up.
Senator,
that's what they're saying to you.
Yeah, look, all of this is true, and you know better than anybody. I mean, you actually have, basic economic common sense, which is something you can't say for most senators and congressmen and women, unfortunately. But it's also, look, the difference between a 2.5% interest rate on a mortgage and a 7%, it's completely flummoxed to the entire housing market, frozen it in so many different ways. But to build on what you were saying, when you were governor of Florida, I imagine Florida has a balanced budget requirement, as basically every state does. That is, the state can't go into debt like the federal government can.
They do. Here's Florida had added it to its debt every year for 20 years, over $1 billion. So these states that have a balanced budget amendment, they just borrow. There's very few states. I paid off a third of state debt, all right, when I was governor. But very few states have no debt. They borrow money. So when they say they balance the budget, they borrow money, and then their pension plans underfunded and blah blah blah. So we have overspent at every level of government: local government, state government, federal government, and the numbers are staggering. The increases in the last 10 years, and so this is going to come home to hurt us. I mean, look, we have a president that's trying to build the best economy in the world. I mean, we got a hot country from the place of somebody wants to invest. But if we don't get our fiscal house in order, then what's going to happen to interest rates? What's going to happen to inflation? And what's going to be left of the revenues we do collect when we're paying now over $1 trillion in interest? We're going to collect, without the tariff money, we're going to collect probably $5.5 trillion. We're spending over $1 trillion now just in interest expense. And that
seems like a problem.
Interest rates.
Yeah.
So
well, hopefully,
look, I believe we're going to get a bill done, but we've got a lot of work to do to get our fiscal house in order. I know the president's committed to it. I'm committed to doing everything I can to help this president.
when's this bill going to get done in your mind? When are we actually going to have a big, beautiful bill to celebrate?
It'll be sometime before the 4th. I mean, people are going to get.
Okay.
The anticipation was that we were going to finish and go on a week recess over the 4th on Thursday. So every day we're here past Thursday, it's going to put a lot of pressure on people to finally make a decision of what we're going to do. But there's a lot of work left to do. They've got to go through this process to see if we can even put it in the bill, which is called bird bath. So we're still having some of that stuff today. So. But I'm optimistic. I don't know what day it'll get done. Of course, I'm staying here to get it done.
All right, Senator Rick Scott, thank you so much. Appreciate you being with us.
All right, take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Saving the lives of unborn babies vulnerable to abortion is Preborn's mission. The health of the pregnant mother and the child is so critical to all of these preborn clinics across the country. And last year alone, they made it possible for more than 65,000 tiny babies to be brought into this world and receive the love and support they need from mom, and make sure mom gets that too. Preborn takes this all of the above approach because their mission is just that simple: life. Help life come into this world. Over the past 2 decades, 350,000 babies have become little boys and little girls because of Preborn's efforts. One way that Preborn achieves this is an ultrasound, because when mom comes into that clinic, she's under pressure, she's concerned, doesn't know where to turn, and she gets the love and support of Preborn, but also meets the tiny baby via ultrasound that is in her womb. The decision for life becomes so much easier. And Preborn accomplishes it with a $28 expense per ultrasound. Think about that. A $28 expense could mean that you are helping to bring about a little tiny boy or girl into this world. Preborn operates clinics in communities across the country where they're the highest per capita abortion rates, because they're on the front lines saving babies right now. This isn't about just changing legislation over the years and changing hearts and minds beyond that. This is about saving tiny babies today, and they need you. They need your help. To donate securely, dial pound 250 and say that keyword baby. That's pound 250. Dial pound 250 from your phone. Say baby, or visit preborn.com/buck. That's preborn.com/BUCK. Sponsored by Preborn.